Welcome back to Interconnected. I want you to sit with this feeling because it's the feeling that keeps coming back. You could fill a room with the names of people who know you exist. Your professional contacts span three industries. You have 273 Instagram mutuals. Your email inbox receives notifications from 12 different communities that you've joined. You're never technically alone. But you cannot name a single person you would call at 2 in the morning. Not because they'd refuse, but because you genuinely cannot think of someone who would be unsurprised to hear your voice saying, I'm not okay. That's where Natalie found herself one Friday night in late October. She's 34. She's moved to a new city 18 months ago for a project management role at a mid-sized tech firm. By every external measure, she's done everything right. She has a good job. She has a one-bedroom apartment with natural light. She has friends, real ones, people she cares about. They just all live somewhere else now. And the friendship that used to be sustained by proximity and daily overlap now runs on scheduled video calls and carefully composed text messages. She told me, quote, my calendar looks jammed. Every evening has something in it. A work event, a fitness class, a meetup with someone new I'm trying to know. But somehow, I'm alone in a way I've never been alone before. It's not quiet. It's not peace. It's the alone that comes from being surrounded by people you don't actually know. That's the moment I started asking, why? And not in a casual way. The kind of why that keeps you up. The kind that makes you notice the same pattern everywhere once you've seen it. So let me paint the cultural backdrop we're all swimming in right now. Open a magazine. Scroll through wellness content. You'll find articles with headlines like 6 Ways to Nurture Your Network and Build Your Tribe, a Practical Guide. There's an entire industry built around the idea that connection is a skill you can optimize, a habit you can solve with the right app or the right framework. We have workplace software pinging us with suggested connections. We have coffee chains that have branded themselves as community spaces. Quote, your third place, they say, selling you the idea that proximity to strangers plus the ambient sound of espresso machines equals belonging. On the surface, it seems like we've never had it easier. We're more connected than any human beings in history. We have tools designed specifically to facilitate friendship. We live in cities full of people. We have time. We say we don't, but we have Netflix. We have money, comparatively. We have opportunity. But wait, Natalie again, quote, I could spend every evening at an event, a class, a coffee date with someone, and I do. And it changes nothing. I still go home and feel the strange emptiness of knowing a lot of people and being known by none of them. Here's the thing that stuck with me. The math doesn't compute. If connection has never been easier, why does loneliness feel epidemic? And I don't mean that as a rhetorical flourish. The U.S. Surgeon General released an advisory in May of 2023 titled, Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation. The language they used, epidemic, like it's a disease spreading. That's what public health officials use when something is killing people. And they backed it up. About half of American adults reported measurable levels of loneliness. And here's the part that makes you stop. The mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So we have a paradox sitting right in front of us. More tools for connection, more loneliness. More opportunity to meet people, fewer close friendships. We're optimized for availability and somehow ended up with isolation. That's the real question underneath. Not how do I make more friends? That assumes that the problem is you, your effort, your failure. But what if the problem isn't you? What if something in the structure itself is broken? That's when I started looking for people who could help me see what I was missing. I want to introduce you to someone. Malik isn't one person, but he's built from real people. Long haul truck drivers, gig workers, contract employees, anyone whose work keeps them moving. The Malik I talked to is in his early 40s. He's been driving for 16 years. He relocates every 9 months, sometimes more often, chasing better pay routes and contract opportunities. He knows hundreds of people: dispatchers, loading dock workers, other drivers, managers at dozens of truck stops. He's friendly with all of them. He'll remember their names and their kids' names and their coffee orders. He's good at that kind of surface connection. But here's what he told me, quote, "I'm on friendly terms with hundreds of people, and none of them know my middle name. I've never invited anyone to my place because my place is temporary. I don't have a barbecue or a standing Thursday dinner or anyone who knows I'm going through something. I'm friendly everywhere and friends nowhere." Now, Malik's situation is extreme, but it's not unique. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks something called job tenure, how long people stay in one position. For workers aged 25 to 34, the median tenure is 2.8 years. That's a cycle of almost constant transition. A new job means a new place, often. A new place means starting from zero socially. Just as you're beginning to know people, just as the casual bar conversations are starting to turn into plans, something shifts. Better opportunity, better pay, a company restructure, and you're packing again. So I asked a sociologist about this, someone who studies how people actually spend their time. Here's what she said, and I want you to hold on to this because it reframes everything. Friendship formation is basically commute time chemistry. It requires routine overlap, shared space, repeated low stakes contact. Remove that, and the petri dish stays empty. Let that land for a second. Friendship isn't merely a feeling. It's not something that happens through intention or apps. It happens through proximity. Real, boring, repeated proximity. Jeffrey Hall, who studied this, found something striking. It takes roughly 50 hours of togetherness. It takes roughly 50 hours of time together to move from acquaintance to casual friend. 90 hours to go from casual friend to actual friend. And more than 200 hours to become someone's close friend. 200 hours. That's roughly 5 weeks if you saw someone 8 hours a day, or 2 years if you saw them 4 hours a week. That's the infrastructure that friendship requires, not occasional, regular, predictable. The kind of contact that happens because you're both just there. Now think about Malik again. Every 9 months, he resets to zero, and he's not alone. Look at the way work is structured now. Contract positions, remote roles, gig assignments. Even people who stay in the same city are constantly shifting between social circles for different reasons. The coworkers you see 5 days a week, the fitness class people you see once a week, the neighborhood folks you run into, the friends from the app you download to make friends. None of these are your there. They're all competing for the same limited hours, and none of them last long enough to accumulate to 200. So the first seam between economic structure and emotional outcome becomes visible. Labor mobility and schedule unpredictability starve friendship of the very thing it requires to form. But that's only one thread. I want you to think about the coffee shop, not as a product, as a space. In most cities 20 years ago, there was a coffee shop on the corner. Maybe it was a diner. Maybe it was a pub. Maybe it was a library with actual reading tables where people could linger. The point is, it was a place where you could sit and be surrounded by other people without those people being your obligation. It was cheap enough that you didn't feel guilty ordering one coffee and staying 2 hours. It was social without requiring you to be social. You could read, you could work, you could people watch. You could strike up a conversation or you could sit in silence. The social friction was low, the commitment was zero. Robert Putnam called these places third places. Not your home, not your work, the third place. He studied them extensively, and he found something that stuck with him. People who spent time in third places reported higher life satisfaction, felt more embedded in their communities. The third place wasn't creating friendship, it was creating the conditions where friendship could grow almost accidentally. So, what happened to them? Lindsay is a barista turned manager at a downtown coffee chain. She watched the shift happen in real time. The independent coffee shops got replaced by chains. Then the chains optimized. Faster service, fewer seats. More of the space dedicated to ordering and pickup, less to lingering. And this is what Lindsay noticed most acutely, the culture flipped. Headphones became the default, then AirPods. Then the ambient sound became the point, not actual conversation. Tips went up when people felt anonymous. The barista stopped knowing anyone's name. Here's what Lindsay told me, quote, headphones went in, tips went up, conversation died. You could feel the moment we stopped being a gathering place and started being a transaction. The third places didn't disappear because people stopped wanting them. They disappeared because they became impossible to run profitably. A coffee shop that makes money is not a third place anymore. It is a throughput operation. Maximize volume, minimize lingering, monetize every square inch. But here's where the system gets darker. The disappearance of third places wouldn't be so catastrophic if the physical geography still encouraged casual contact, but it doesn't. Urban design, the arrangement of streets, buildings, walkability, zoning, has been optimized for one thing, car movement. Single-family zoning pushes density out. Mixed-use neighborhoods get replaced by subdivisions where you need to drive everywhere. The research on this is striking. Donald Appleyard studied residents on streets with different traffic patterns. People on low traffic streets had 3 times as many friends and twice as many acquaintances as people on high traffic streets. Fewer cars meant more people on porches, more stoop seating, more casual hallway conversations. More cars meant isolation. So now you have this. The places that used to create low-stakes social contact have been engineered out of existence. The neighborhoods that used to support casual friendship have been replaced by car-centric sprawl. There's no there anymore. Only home and work and destinations you drive to, each cordoned off from every other. Natalie noticed this. She moved to a new city and tried to make friends. She went to yoga classes. She went to networking events. She joined a book club. All separate destinations, all requiring her to plan, decide, commit, and drive. There's no neighborhood coffee shop where she accidentally runs into the same people over and over. There's no place she just is, where others also just are. And that's the physical world. Now we go into the digital realm. Late on a Friday night, Natalie sits on her couch. She's scrolling through her texts. She's checking her work email. She's looked at her calendar for Monday and felt the familiar pre-weekend dread. So she opens Instagram or TikTok or the Facebook feed. It doesn't matter which one. They all show you the same thing. Everyone's life, but curated. Her college roommate just posted a photo from a beach vacation. Perfect light, perfect group, everyone laughing. Her former coworker posted about her promotion. Her cousin posted about her engagement. Her yoga classmate posted a perfectly styled photo of her apartment. Natalie's apartment is fine. She has a good job. Her life is working. But somehow in the feed, everyone's life looks finished, polished, complete. And hers looks like wet cement. That's the experience of algorithmic feeds. They're designed to show you the highlight reel of everyone you know all the time. It creates a constant ambient comparison machine. You're never just living your life. You're living it in the context of everyone else's curated life. But here's what I want you to understand about why this matters for friendship. Algorithms are optimized for engagement, not for connection. A former social media product manager told me something that I think about constantly. Here's what she said, quote, "The metric was minutes on site, not friendships formed. We had no incentive to help people form close relationships. We had every incentive to keep them scrolling." Think about what that means. The platforms most people use to stay connected, the ones they open when they're lonely, the ones they use to maintain friendships across distance, are actively optimized to prevent genuine connection. Not because the designers are evil, because the business model doesn't pay for connection, it pays for time spent, for engagement, for the dopamine hit of seeing a like, a comment, a notification. And notice what gets crowded out: the mundane, the ordinary, the boring. You don't post that you sat alone eating pasta. You don't update your story about the conversation that almost happened but didn't. You don't share the moment you wanted to call someone but thought they seemed busy. Those moments, the small, human, vulnerable moments that actually forge connection, those aren't the feed material. They're not engagement optimized. So what happens is this: you see everyone's highlight reel. You feel alone in your ordinary moment. You open the app to feel less lonely. The app shows you someone else's highlight reel. You feel more alone. Repeat. Meanwhile, the platforms are collecting data on everyone you know, predicting what will keep you scrolling, serving you the content most likely to trigger a response, which is often envy or outrage, or that weird compulsive checking that isn't actually connection. Chamath Palihapitiya, who was a vice president at Facebook, said something in 2017 that I think is the clearest indictment of this whole system. He said, quote, "The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops we created are destroying how society works," unquote. Destroying. That's not hyperbole. That's someone on the inside watching the thing he helped build corrode the social fabric. And the platforms know this. When Frances Haugen testified before Congress about Facebook's internal research, she revealed that Facebook's leadership knows how to make their platforms safer, knows how to optimize genuine connection over engagement. But they won't, because genuine connection doesn't make as much money. So the system is working exactly as designed, but not for us. But there's more. Look at dual income households. Most households now require 2 full-time incomes to maintain housing. That creates a time poverty that's almost incomprehensible when you look at it directly. Both partners working full-time. Childcare, household management, commutes. There's no slack. There's no time to just be around people, to linger, to build friendship slowly. And if you have kids, the University of Michigan surveyed mothers with young children. 62% reported feeling lonely at least some of the time. 1 in 4 said they lack support from other parents. Parenting is isolating. It's family focused in ways that older structures used to distribute across communities. You're alone with your kids, or you're in a childcare facility with strangers on the same treadmill. There's no village. There's you and whoever you're paying to help. Add to this something you might not think connects to friendship at all: fashion. The way clothing works now, fast fashion, micro trends, seasonal shifts. It used to be that uniforms signaled belonging: a high school jacket, a punk aesthetic, a preppy look. These were visible signs of your tribe. You could see someone across a room and know. Fashion used to narrow your social search. Now, it fragments it constantly. You have to constantly signal who you are, and the signals change. That wears you out. I'm throwing a lot at you because that's the point. This isn't one problem, it's a system. Each part makes the other parts worse. Your time poor from work, so you don't have slack to visit third places. Third places have disappeared anyways, so there's nowhere casual to be. The urban layout means you can't stumble onto people. You have to drive deliberately to see someone. The people you do try to see are also time poor, so plans get canceled. When you feel bad about being alone, you open your phone, and the algorithm serves you everyone else's completed life. Now you feel worse, lonelier, more convinced that the problem is you. But it's not you. It's the lattice. An economist of well-being I talked to reframed the whole thing for me. They said, quote, "Friendship is infrastructure, like roads, like fiber, like clean water. You don't say that the problem is people don't individually pursue water hard enough. You build systems that deliver it. We've let friendship infrastructure rot, and then we blame people for being thirsty." The thought that kept circling was this, quote, "Design for proximity and friendship follows. Stop designing for proximity and isolation is what you get." The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's that what it was designed for, individual productivity, consumer engagement, capital efficiency, isn't compatible with what humans actually need to survive: genuine connection. So here's what shifted for me once I saw it this way. I stopped asking, why can't Natalie make friends? That question assumes the problem is hers. It makes friendship feel like a personal responsibility, a skill she needs to optimize, and lets everything else off the hook. The real question became, what would have to be different for friendship to be possible? You'd need repeated, unplanned contact. That means third places that aren't monetized for transaction speed. Cafes where sitting is welcome. Libraries where lingering is encouraged. Parks, public pools, spaces where you can show up without a plan and run into the same faces. You'd need temporal slack. Time that isn't accounted for. Time that isn't monetized. Work that doesn't consume your evenings and weekends. Income that doesn't require both partners working full-time. Childcare that's collective, not isolated. Good urban design that encourages walking, lingering, casual contact. Mixed-use neighborhoods, low-traffic streets, places where people are just present. You'd need a break from the comparison machine. Digital spaces that aren't optimized for engagement at the cost of authenticity, or maybe just less of them. You'd need what Robert Putnam called social capital, the actual infrastructure of belonging. And here's what surprised me. There are people and places already trying to build it. I asked someone deeply embedded in community work, someone who's actually been part of trying to resurrect third places, trying to create spaces where people can just be. What actually works? They told me something that I'm still turning over. Quote, the friendships that form fastest are in places where there's a reason to be there that isn't about friendship. A tool library, a community garden, a makerspace. You show up to borrow a drill and you end up talking to someone about their renovation. You go to plant tomatoes and you end up sitting on a bench with a stranger talking about your kid. The friendship is incidental to something else. That's what makes it real. The point is, you don't solve this by telling people to try harder. You solve it by building the conditions where friendship can happen almost by accident. So let's bring this back to where we started. It's November now, 3 weeks after Natalie moved to her new city. She's sitting at home on a Saturday afternoon, and she's thinking about what we talked about. She's thinking about infrastructure, about the impossibility of making friends when the city is designed to keep her isolated, when her time is fragmented, when every gathering place is optimized for transaction speed. And then something opens in her neighborhood. It's called a tool library. Community members can borrow tools for free. You need a drill, you borrow a drill. You talk to a librarian about your project, you see the same people. You start helping each other. It's not a place to make friends, it's a place to be, and friendship happens. Natalie goes. She's nervous. She's terrified of small talk. She's spent 18 months convinced the problem is that she's not good at this. She walks in and someone hands her an intake form. While she's filling it out, an older guy asks what project she's working on. She's fixing her bedroom closet. He mentions he just did a closet renovation. So they talk for 15 minutes. He doesn't ask for her number. He doesn't say we should hang out. He only says, you should come back next Saturday. That's when the Saturday crowd is here, and we usually help each other. A week later, she comes back. The same guy's there. 2 other people she saw the week before. They end up helping someone else carry plywood to the loading area. One of them mentions a neighborhood dinner happening in 2 weeks. You should come, she says. Notice what's happening. Natalie didn't make a friend through effort or intention. She didn't download an app or say, I'm going to be more open. She showed up to a place for a practical reason, and then, through repeated low-stakes contact, friendship started to happen. She told me, quote, I'm here because I needed to borrow a drill. But yeah, something about showing up to actually do something instead of just trying to make friends, that changed things. By the time we finished our conversation, she'd been to the tool library 4 times. She had made plans to go to the neighborhood dinner. She was talking about the people there by name. 200 hours of friendship didn't happen in a month, but the infrastructure was there. The repeated contacts, the low stakes, the sense of being part of something. Now, let me recap the journey we've taken tonight. We started with Natalie's Friday night, surrounded by connections, but isolated in the way that matters. The feeling of jammed calendar and empty room. We followed the visible contradiction. More tools for connection, more loneliness. We discovered that labor mobility starts friendship of the repeated contact it requires. That economic precarity makes sustained friendships impossible. That the average person's job tenure means you were constantly starting from zero. We saw that third places, the coffee shops, the bars, the gathering spots, have been engineered out of existence or optimized into transaction zones where lingering is discouraged. We mapped urban design that makes casual contact rare. Streets designed for cars, not people. Neighborhoods that require deliberate planning to move through. And then we looked at the digital layer. Platforms optimized for engagement, not connection. Feeds serving highlight reels. Algorithms designed to trigger comparison, not belonging. We saw how dual income time poverty, childcare isolation, and fashion fragmentation all accelerate the pattern. And then we reframed the entire question. The problem isn't you. It's not that you don't try hard enough, or you're too introverted, or you moved to the wrong city. It's that we've let the infrastructure of friendship rot and then blame people for being thirsty. What changes once we see the unseen? Well, for Natalie, it means she's not broken. The system is, and systems can be redesigned. It means the question stops being, how do I fix my loneliness, and becomes, what kind of spaces and structures would let friendship happen? It means looking at policy, urban design, work structure, digital platforms, the actual conditions that determine whether humans can connect or not. It means that next time you feel that Friday night isolation, that jam packed calendar with an empty room, you might ask, is this me? Or is this the inevitable result of systems that were never designed with human connection in mind? The question I'm sitting with now is this: if friendship is infrastructure, how do we start building it on purpose? Not as a side effect of something else, but as something we actually design for, fund for, maintain like we maintain roads and water systems. Because social capital isn't a luxury. It's not something that happens if we're lucky. It's as essential as clean water, and we know how to build for it. We only have to decide that it matters. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next week.